My name is Andrea Sereda. I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I am married and a mother to 4 kids aged 18, 15, 9, and 7. Today I'm grateful for my family. We have been at home together for over a year. All 4 of my kids have been homeschooling. My husband is at home. I've been working from home, and I'm grateful for them because I really like them. It hasn't been too hard. There are moments that have been difficult, but I'm grateful for the people that they are and the fact that we get along and have so much fun. So I've heard a lot of families have struggled in this last year, and I'm very grateful that we have not and that we've really enjoyed being together. This last while, it's been a gift. Before I found a plant-based lifestyle, my health was completely different. I weighed 150 pounds more than I do now. I had type 2 diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and my mobility was so bad just because of my joints that I struggled to walk most days. So keeping up with my kids, my youngest kid at that time was only 1, and so keeping up with her was a real challenge, and I didn't want to be 36 years old and on diabetes medication. I didn't want to not be able to play with them at the playground, so my weight was very different. My husband suggested that we watch Forks Over Knives. We were both already vegetarian, and he saw my weight climbing and my health declining. And although my weight was never an issue for him, he always told me I was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, no matter what my weight was. But he saw that I wasn't happy, and he saw my health declining, and so he recommended, he's like, what if we just watch Forks Over Knives? And so we did, and by the end of it, we both said to each other, okay, that's it. We're gonna ditch the dairy and we're gonna ditch the eggs and see what happens. But I missed a key component of the message from that documentary, and we didn't change how much oil we were having. And so in eating all of the vegan foods, I ended up gaining somewhere between 30 and 40 pounds in the 3 or 4 months that followed us going vegan. And so then I rewatched Forks Over Knives, and that time the oil reducing and eliminating oil message got through, and then my health just started to slowly transform, and I was able to consistently lose weight. I also really enjoyed the book Reversing Diabetes by Dr. Neil Bernard, and that was another pivotal moment for me in this journey, was reading that book and realizing that yes, in fact, a plant-based diet not only would improve my weight and how I was feeling, but also could reverse my diabetes, and it did. So it was about a year later, I had lost about 100 pounds, and I asked my doctor if I could go off the medication or reduce the medication, and initially he said no, and then decided that we could give it a try. And so I got off my diabetes medication. I got off my liver disease reversed. I was able to do more. I started teaching fitness classes. My skin changed. So I've been vegetarian for a long time, but I always had bumps all over my arms and legs, and that changed. My skin all but almost completely cleared up after it was the dairy, and I noticed that I had a lot less gastrointestinal issues once I got rid of dairy as well. And that was challenging for me, was ditching the dairy, because I'm Dutch, and Dutch people are basically made out of cheese and milk chocolate, so and dairy in general. So that was why I always was very hesitant to go vegan. I was fine being vegetarian, but vegan just seems so extreme. But being 36 and on diabetes medication seemed worse. So it was definitely worth a try. So that was challenging. Dairy was challenging, but not as challenging as I thought it would be. And maybe that's because my husband did it with me. So we both went plant-based together, And at first he was concerned about getting rid of so much oil because we had both been told that the oil, we need healthy fats. And it wasn't until we learned that getting healthy fats in the form of whole foods was the way to get them. And so I started thinking about oil like an added fat, just like I think about white sugar as refined sugar. Doesn't mean that I don't ever have it, it just means that I reduce it. So the advice that I would give to somebody that's embarking on a plant-based journey is just to remember that it doesn't all have to happen overnight. So what we did is we got rid of things, like we didn't replace things. So as we ran out of Parmesan cheese, we didn't replace it. I felt like just throwing all of those things away would be not only wasteful, but even more disrespectful to the animals who might have suffered for having this product produced. So we finished it, and then we just didn't replace it. The other thing too is I found that there were a few key things that once I figured out what I could do instead, it made everything else seem easy. So for example, once I figured out my latte, it was like, okay, well now this isn't going to be so hard because having oat milk or having cashew milk on my cereal is no big deal. But until I figured out which brand of plant-based milk I liked in my coffee, it just seemed like too big of a thing to undertake. Isn't that funny? But it's true. So there was that, and then cheese. I thought, what am I going to do for Mexican night? What am I going to put in my burrito? And we had never really had guacamole before, so we started making guacamole and putting that in instead of the cheese, and it turned out that for me, the cheese was the least of Mexican night. I was able to enjoy it just as much, if not more, because I was feeling better afterwards. So we just took it one day, one meal at a time, and the last piece of advice I would say to others on this journey is, not all plant-based milks are created equal. And you may find that there are whole foods that you can sub in for foods that you'd had in the past, just like my example with the guacamole instead of cheese. We don't use cheese substitutes really because they're highly processed. So instead we'll put something else in its place, or just leave it out. You'd be surprised at how many things you think, oh, I really, our holiday dinner, I always thought it was all about the turkey, and it turns out the meal is just as enjoyable, more enjoyable, I would argue, without the turkey. I still just make all the sides, and I make them in a plant-based, healthful way. So just start and know that you don't have to be perfect. It comes over time as you learn and you develop a recipe base and you discover foods that you like. Have fun with it. It's completely transformed my life, and I will never go back to eating any other way. Thank you so much for having me today. I so appreciate the work that you do.